we have been the Mr. Spock. You know, everybody thought he just made that up, right. But actually that is the one of the letters of the Jewish alphabet. So this is Jewish Kabbalah. This is magic. When he did this on Star Trek, he literally was causing every person who was viewing that program to become participant in a Jewish kabbalistic ritual. That's called the letter SHIN in the Jewish alphabet. So that wasn't something that the creators of Star Trek made up. That actually was an occult symbol that Leonard Nimoy came up with there.
Minutes after Prime Minister Netanyahu made his speech in front of U.S. Congress and the House, and I get a really uneasy feeling about it, despite the fact that everything he said was pretty straightforward and agreeable in terms of a geopolitical front. And just as a starter for this video, and it sort of ties into everything that I'm going to talk about here, there are lots of internet sites that report Netanyahu to be a self-admitted Freemason through a 1994 Israeli publication called SHIN. If anyone can vet that, let me know, because that would really explain a lot. But for this video, I want to talk about the late Leonard Nimoy, or Mr. Spock. And I'm sure you've heard that Leonard Nimoy just passed away. He was the star on the hit 60s TV show Star Trek. He passed away at the age of 83 due to chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. And a lot of folks are bringing up the Vulcan symbol that the character Spock made so famous. But what does the symbol actually represent? Well, according to Nimoy, in an interview he did for the National Yiddish Book Center in 2013, the symbol has Jewish roots. Here's a short clip of Nimoy describing how he came about this symbol.
So I'm with my father and my grandfather and my brother sitting in the bench seats. Women were upstairs. 5 or 6 guys get up on the bima on the stage, and they're facing the congregation. They get their talit over their heads, and they start this chanting. I think it's called duchening. And my father said to me, "Don't look." So everybody's got their eyes covered with their hands, or they've got their talit down over their faces, or turned away, turned their back to these guys. And I hear this strange sound coming from them. They're not singers, they were shouters. And dissonant, it was all discordant. And they were doing like, that kind of wailing. And all discordant, not together, not in unison. And then the leader would shout out, "Yevorechecho!" And the rest of them would respond, "Yevorechecho Adonai v'yishmerecho!" It was chilling. You know? Whoa, something major is happening here. So I peeked, and I saw them with their hands stuck out from beneath their talit like this towards the congregation. I thought, wow. Something really got hold of me. I thought, I had no idea what was going on, but the sound of it and the look of it was magical. This is the shape of the letter SHIN, Hebrew alphabet, SHIN. Very interesting letter in the language. It's the first letter in the word Shaddai, the first letter in the word Shalom, first letter in the word Shekhinah, which is the name of the feminine aspect of God, who supposedly was created to live amongst humans, the Shekhinah. Why you're not supposed to look came to me much, much later, much later. My wife, Susan, has a cousin who's a rabbi here in Los Angeles at Temple Israel. And I was telling him this story, and he said the reason you don't look is the legend is that during that benediction, Yevorechecho, the Shekhinah comes into the sanctuary to bless the congregation. And you don't want to see that because it's so powerful, you could really be seriously injured, or it could be fatal. So that's why you protect yourself by hiding your eyes. Don't look. I survived. I never dreamed that I would do that someday or be involved in it in some way. But sure enough, one day we're making the Star Trek series, television series. We come to a very lovely script called Amok Time, where my character, Spock, who comes from the Vulcan planet, has to go home to fulfill a marriage betrothal, to be married. And the lady who's going to conduct the service is a lady named T'Pau, played by a wonderful Jewish Viennese actress named Celia Lovsky. I'm supposed to meet her when we arrive at the planet. We exchange hellos. It was the first time we were seeing other Vulcans, other people of my race. So I was hoping to find some touches that could develop the story of the Vulcan sociology, history, whatever, ritual. So I said to the director, I think we should have some special greeting that Vulcans do, because he said, what do you mean? I said, well, you know, humans, we have these rituals, things that we do. We shake hands, we nod to each other, we bow to each other, we salute each other. What do Vulcans do? So I suggested this. He said, okay. And that's how we did it as a greeting, a Vulcan greeting. Boy, that just took off through the culture. It was amazing. Within days after it was on the air, I was getting it on the street. People doing this to me, waving to me in this Vulcan gesture. That's interesting. And it's been that way to this day. It's almost 50 years later, people are still doing it. It just touched the magic chord. Most people, to this day, still don't know what it's all about. A lot of people do, because I've talked about it a lot. I've been asked the question, where did that come from? And I have very readily put out this story. It's sort of like a secret handshake or something, you know, that people enjoy to exchange with each other, as if to say, I'm in on it. I know this. I know the joke. You know, Star Trek, right? You know, hey, Star Trek. You know, it's great. It's great. People don't realize they're blessing each other with this. It's great.
I thought I'd make a few comments regarding it and the connection it has to Hollywood and Star Trek, and even the occult and the Illuminati or the elite order, who take their directions from fallen spirits, which will make their appearance as well in this short little video. So, as he described, the hand symbol represents the Hebrew letter SHIN. According to kabbalistic sources, there are two sides to the SHIN. The right side, where the SHIN possesses 3 heads and represents this world, and the left side, which possessed 4 heads and represents the world to come. Each of the 3 prongs of the SHIN represents different dimensions of the human being, one being the Kesser, will and pleasure, the second being intellect, and the third being emotion. And each of these have their own paths, and not surprisingly, there are several more layers of hidden meaning, of which isn't really that important for this video, but I'll leave some links where you can check them out for yourself. Now, the ritual that Leonard Nimoy was talking about there is a priestly blessing known as the Dukanin, which is performed by the Kohanims, who are the Jewish priests thought to be the descendants of Aaron, the Most High, brother of Moses, and according to Jewish tradition, have been divinely chosen to work in the Jewish temple and assist others in serving God. Here is an image of the Kohanim performing this blessing. Does anything look familiar to you? If you've studied occult symbolism at all, you know right away that this is very similar to the rock sign of the Illuminati that people have pointed out for a long time. Now, I don't really want to go down this rabbit trail right now, but I did want to point it out because it is very similar. Now, the real hidden spiritual deception behind this whole thing is found in the show Star Trek. The guy who created Star Trek, Gene Roddenberry, has a very interesting past, getting mixed up with a group that called themselves the Council of Nine. Now, if you don't know about the Council of Nine, again, I'll leave some links in the description section, but in short, the Nine claim to be the Ennead, or the 9 major gods of ancient Egypt, and the 9 principles of the universe. The story is long and complicated, but in short, it goes back to 1952 when the founder of the Round Table Foundation, a medical doctor named Andrija Puharich, who had been doing paranormal and psychic research for years, brought in an Indian mystic named Dr. D.G. Vinod, who fascinating to look at, and many prominent people in culture have crossed paths with Puharich and his channelers, one of which was a young Israeli named Uri Geller. By the time Puharich set up Lab 9 in New York, he was backed by multi-millionaire businessmen, European nobility, scientists from Stanford Research Institute, and prominent political figures. And so again, one of the folks influenced by this Council of Nine, these spiritual beings that were being channeled, is Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek. And in fact, if you take a look at the number 9, you'll see it run through various elements of Star Trek throughout its various incarnations. But furthermore, the number 9 in general has been displayed throughout many Hollywood films, as seen here. But let's get down to the Vulcan himself. Spock was a hybrid, half human, half alien. But if we reach further back into history, we find that the Vulcan was the god of fire, where we get the word volcano. Of course, we should immediately notice the connection with Lucifer, the morning star, or Prometheus, the light bearer. He was also the god of metalworking and the forge, with the medieval alchemist Paracelsus declaring Vulcan as the god of alchemy, which might have something to do with Azazel, the Watcher, in the Book of Enoch, who taught mankind to make weapons. Now, this is interesting to consider because another name for Vulcan is Tubal-Cain. In Genesis 4:22, we read, "And Selah, she also bare Tubal-Cain, an instructor of every artier in brass and iron."
Tribe of Levi, and I'm from the house of Aaron. So it said the children of Aaron were to give this blessing to the people of Israel, the children of Israel, and they would often lift their hands like this, which was the sign of the Shekhinah glory. In fact, Star Trek, when they say live long and prosper, is a form of the Aaronic benediction that I think it was when Leonard Nimoy was a little kid, and he was fascinated by at the synagogue when the sons of Aaron would lift up their hands, and so they put that into Star Trek. So that is the Aaronic blessing and believer in the Lord, and we come to his priesthood, and he's led me to do this and to fulfill this this calling. When I came into ministry, he gave me scriptures about Aaron and his sons. So only in Messiah, Yeshua, Jesus, as a Jew am I fulfilled, and as a son of Aaron am I fulfilled. And then it's prophesied that in the end of days that the light of God's going to go to all nations, that Jew and Gentile are going to be together in Messiah. And so he's called us now as Jewish believers and as Gentile believers to be lights to the nations and to go out. So this year, he's called me and he's called you to go to the nations. So the first nation I was called to was India. And so, you know, they had never seen a Jew there before in their lives, and they never saw a Jewish believer there in their lives. And except they knew about a Jewish believer, Thomas, who brought them the gospel, so I was walking in his footsteps. So when I went there, I stood before about 100,000 Indian people in robes, seeing a Jewish person, and I lifted up my hands, you know, and they bowed their heads, and I did the Aaronic blessing for the first time in Madras. You know, I chanted it to them, and then they translated it into Tamil language, and the reaction was, you know, they'd never heard anything like this, and I'd never seen anything like this. The reaction was that they were like screams, and they were like all sorts of things happening throughout the 100,000, you know, and it was just, it blew us away, you know, that it was something, we knew we were seeing something prophetic and something of the end time.
We want you to have this prophetic end time blessing as well, so we ask Rabbi Khan to bless each of you with a priestly blessing.
His face to shine upon you and and give you grace. May the Lord lift up upon you the glory of his countenance, and may he give to you shalom, life, fullness, peace, victory, and all the grace of his love. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, Or HaOlam, light of the world, Uchvod Yisrael, and the glory of Israel. God bless you.